been missing for a little while, but there is a very good reason behind that, and that is that I am a busy working woman and I have a life. That too, but that's not the real reason. So the real reason I've been missing is I've been very busy with getting my health in order and getting ready for a surgery. I was supposed to have already had surgery. Actually, today is the 7th. I was supposed to have surgery yesterday on the 6th, and I should have been admitted into the hospital on the 5th, so it should have been that Monday. However, when I did my final checkup for my surgery, my blood level was at a 6, which is too low to actually have the surgery without them running the risk of losing me on the table, because the surgery that I'm scheduled for, normally there's a lot of blood loss during this surgery, so they couldn't risk it. So they've given me time to build up my blood a little naturally, take supplements and stuff. So I've been rescheduled for February, which is cool because I didn't really want to be down for my birthday season, but I'm kind of upset because I canceled all my hair and nail appointment and everything for this surgery, and y'all know December is that month for hair and nails and everything, so I cannot get those appointments back. So this is me for the Christmas season, and I don't like it one bit, but I digress. So the surgery that I will be having in February is a myomectomy, which is basically them removing like fibroids and cysts and stuff from out of my uterus. I guess to start it off, I've been dealing with like really bad periods, like cramps and dizziness and a lot of blood loss and stuff like that, and that is because I think it's like 11 different fibroids within my one body, and one of them is like the size of a human fetus. It's huge. I'm basically pregnant at this moment without being pregnant. So I haven't.
Due to being abducted by the aliens, don't worry, they thought I was cool and brought me back in one piece. I was forced to restart this video.
So what's happening is I am scheduled to get a surgery done next year, February. I'm scheduled to do a myomectomy, which is where they remove any foreign bodies from like the womb or uterus area, basically. So I have about 11 fibroids within my body, and my organs have been moved from where they should be, and my uterus has been extended. So they need to remove these ASAP. I'll probably do where you can see, like you can't really see it how I'm sitting now, but my stomach looks as though I'm like at least like 3 months pregnant on a regular basis. So yeah, so we're going into surgery to get those removed, but the biggest one for sure has to come out. So I got some items to go for basically post-surgery care. I'm sorry, this video is probably going to be a little mixed up, just because originally I did not plan to make this video. It's very personal, obviously, and so I planned on keeping this to myself and going through it, and then that would be that. But then I realized it's probably a lot of women that have dealt with or are dealing with this situation or the symptoms of it, because before I knew what it was, I was dealing with the most horrific, horrendous, painful, upsetting periods in life, and I'm not exaggerating. Living my day-to-day life was damn near impossible, even when I wasn't on my period, because my period was taking so much out of me. So we're going to talk about that, the symptoms and the before and all of that. And we're going to talk about, you know, the process of getting to this point now where I'm going into surgery. And we're probably going to talk about the surgery after it's done, and the post-care and how I feel and all that good stuff. So this is probably going to actually end up being a series, now that I look at it. So the video with the stuff that I got for post-care is probably going to come up before we get through all of this, because that'll be the simplest part of this. The most important part is actually talking about the surgery itself and all of the symptoms I was dealing with prior and everything, because I feel like that's what's really going to help someone. I don't know who you may be, but hopefully this does help someone. So I have been dealing with anemia for a few years now. I was hospitalized at least 2 times that I could recall off the top of my head. One time it was because my blood level was at a 3, and the second time that I remember, my blood level was at a 2, which the doctors told me I should have been dead, to be honest. I had lost that much blood off my periods. And I was taking iron tablets. I still am taking iron tablets, but I'm losing so much from each period that the iron tablets just cannot keep up with the loss, basically. So my doctors have prescribed a few more things to add into my daily regimen, and I've found some stuff on my own that seem to help. So we're going to talk about all of that. Okay, so I guess I'll go with the hospitalizations first. So the first time that I could recall being hospitalized for this specific thing, I was getting ready to go to work. So the day before, when I was going to work, I felt horrible. I remember my period was on at that time as well, and it was like every move that I made that day, my head started spinning. I felt dizzy, I was lightheaded, and you know, I was in pain, obviously, and I just could not function. And I remember it was before I got in my car, so I had walked to the bus stop, and by the time as I got to the actual bus stop, I couldn't see properly. I felt like I was about to pass out, so I had to there happened to be like a wash house right there, and I walked into the wash house and I just sat down, and I could barely move. And for some reason I still went to work. So I went to work and I told them how I was feeling or whatever. I got some painkillers and I did my job. The next day, when I woke up to get ready for work, I felt like I could not move. I could feel, it's like being within your own body and not being able to control it. I could not move. I could not get up. It felt like the weight of my entire body was too much for me, and I was just lying in my bed in darkness because my eyes are closed. So when I finally got enough energy to actually move, the first thing I did was call my best friend at the time, and I was like, hey, I need you to come and get me. I'm gonna put on my uniform because it's already ironed and it's already there, so I don't have to look for anything to put on, but I need you to come and get me and take me to the clinic because something's wrong. So he comes and gets me. We drive to the clinic. We go in the clinic, and I explain to my doctor, this is the clinic that I normally go to, I explained to my doctor how I was feeling, and my doctor says, okay, I'm gonna take a blood sample. That's the first thing I'm gonna do is take a blood sample from you because I want to see what's going on with you. And when she stuck the needle in me, she said your blood is coming out like water. Like, that's how thin it was. So she takes it to the back, and she comes back out and she says, you're gonna be so mad with me, because she knows me. She said, you're gonna be so mad with me, but I already called the ambulance. You have to go to the hospital. So they took me to the hospital, and they told me that my blood level was at 3, and I had to be hospitalized at that time. And I stayed in the hospital for about a week, got some transfusions or whatever. I went home and I went back to work. Now, I want to say the doctors did not tell me to just go back to work. They told me to rest, and I did take the time off that they gave me. I think they gave me like a month. They literally gave me a month to build my blood back up and stuff like that, and to get some rest. I stayed home for a month, and then I went right back into work. However, the doctors wanted me to come back and do some tests or whatever, but as a regular person, I felt fine, so I did not follow up. I went back to work as usual, and I would say I kept that up for, let's say, another year before I felt, well, no, I did not feel it this time around. The next time around, it's as though my body had gotten so used to not having the blood that I didn't even know that I was out of blood, basically. So the second time around that I started it, I didn't have like the same symptoms, I guess. Not that I could recall, but then I wasn't working as hard because I had actually stopped working after a while. I had resigned from my job because the job that I was on actually was, I was working a lot. I was working between 6 to 7 days a week, and for each day I was working anywhere from 9 to 12 hours per day on a 7-day week, and I could be doing 12 hours per day for all of those days, actually, because it wasn't like a set thing. So I was working a lot. So I think that's why my body felt it a lot more as well that first time. The second time that it happened, though, it happened differently. Like, I would be doing something and it would feel as though I couldn't breathe, or my chest was getting tight, and I know now that's because my body wasn't getting enough oxygen, because your red blood cells also are the blood cells that carry the oxygen. So if you don't have enough blood, you don't have enough red blood cells, you don't have enough oxygen. So, and you know, your heart is in charge of pumping that blood throughout your body. So it was as though and I could feel it. It felt as though my heart was working too much or working too hard, and my chest would hurt. And then some nights I would wake up and it felt as though I was getting ready to throw up or something. I think there was actually one night I woke up to throwing up. I actually threw up. So I was nauseous, and it felt like I couldn't breathe a lot of times. And sometimes I would get the lightheadedness, but not as often. The other symptoms happened more. And so I was living with the guy I was dating. So he pointed out first that he was like, you really look pale, like you're getting really pale. And my best friend at the time, because we were still hanging out and everything, and he was like, you're very pale, like you very light. That's what he said, actually. He was like, you're very light. And I was like, what do you mean light? Because, you know, like skin tone or whatever. He was like, you don't got no color. I'm used to you being like my chocolate friend. You're not chocolate no more. You're very light. I don't know what else to tell you. So, and I also lost a lot of weight, and I didn't realize it. I think at the time when I went to the doctor and the doctor weighed me, I was 109 pounds. I hadn't been that small since I was like in high school. In high school, I was like 105 pounds. So I was back to my high school weight. Presently, I am 130 pounds. But at that time, I was 109 pounds. I didn't even realize that. So I lost weight. I was pale. But my regular functions and everything seemed fine. I wasn't as tired as I was the first time around or anything like that. And so I didn't really have like the I need to go see a doctor. You know what I mean? So what actually happened was my aunt came and got me, and she was like, I'm gonna go do a checkup, and I think you should come and do a checkup at the same time, and I'll pay for it and everything, right? So I was like, oh, okay, fine. So she goes to the same doctor that I go to. Does she go to the same doctor? I don't even know if I remember her actually going to get checked up, because I went in first and all. Anyway, so I guess it was an intervention. But she came and got me, and she took me, well, the night before I went to the hospital, when I went to sleep, I actually had this dream, and it was a very vivid and very weird dream, and I'm not sure if I should even share it, but I guess I'm gonna share it anyway, just, you know, because it fits into the story. By the way, this is completely out there, but my outfit is so cute. The entire outfit is from Charlotte Russe. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna insert a picture over here of my entire outfit because it is cute. And the jewelry is from Objects, the same earrings that I did a video on previously. These are them, and they are still gorgeous. I hope y'all see that. And then these are the TTDI contacts that I also did in a prior video. They are on their last leg. They're still very comfortable because they're supposed to only be for a year, and this month will make my year because I bought these for my birthday of last year. So birthday month again, so I'm gonna be throwing these away, but they're still very much comfortable and they're still very much cute, so I'm just gonna throw that in there. But anyway, so the dream, in this dream I was walking up to, the only way that I can describe it would be heaven, because it was so beautiful. It was like a perfect paradise, dream-like amazing place, and I'm walking up to it basically, and as soon as I get like to like the threshold to like cross over into it, it's like this invisible wall, and it's like keeping me out, and every time I try to touch it, like push me back, and I get frustrated and I start screaming. Well, not screaming, but I'm frustrated and I throw a little tantrum like, why can't I get in? And then I hear this voice saying, it's not your time yet, there's still something else, there's still some stuff I need you to do. Or it's not your time. What? Let me see. It says, not your time yet, you still have some stuff to do. And then I wake up, and then my aunt comes and she's like, let's go, I'm going to go get a checkup, I'm gonna take you the same time or whatever, and I'm gonna pay for it. Cool. So we go to the clinic. She pays for my visit first, and I go to the back and I get my weight and everything, and I see the doctor that I normally see, who saw me the last time, and she says, well, since you're here, we're just gonna check your blood levels again, make sure you're good since the last time I saw you, because I haven't seen you since then. And she checks my blood levels, and she goes to the, she didn't even say nothing this time. She took the blood out, and she looked at it, and she looked at me, and she walked straight to the back. And I should have known from then that this was not good. But anyway, she went to the back, and she came back, and she said, Miss McPhee, shaking her, she said, Miss McPhee, at this point you just gonna hate me because the ambulance is on its way again. So I was like, what? She was like, you worse than you was the last time, you couldn't tell? It's not funny. It's funny now though, because we're past that, you understand? But she was like, you worse than you were the last time. You have to, the ambulances already, they probably already here. I waited until they came, until I knew they was gonna be close to come back and tell you, because I didn't want you to like freak out or run away or whatever. And sure enough, a couple minutes after she gave me this insight and intel, someone knocked on the door, and they was like, the ambulance is here, and they came with wheelchairs and everything. They came with the wheelchair, and I was like, I could walk, and they was like, no ma'am, sit in this chair please. And they wheeled me to the ambulance, and they put me on a stretcher. This is how I knew. They put my weight in the system and all. They was like, you know, you only 109 pounds. And I was like, really? She was like, yes, you're 109 pounds as an adult. So we get to the actual hospital, and they give the people and this is how you know it's like a state of emergency, because they took me to PMH, and if you live in the Bahamas, you know PMH is slow. This was not slow. I was immediately put straight in the back and everything. So they was waiting on me. They was waiting on me at the door. So I was like, I just want to go home. And the woman was like, you can't go home. You can't. She said, do you know what your blood level is? And I was like, no one's told me anything. They literally packed me up and sent me here. She was like, your blood level is a 2. The only time I've seen a 2 is in the grave. You are dead. You are basically dead, sitting here right now. You feel fine? You don't feel it? I was like, no, I feel regular. She's like, yeah, that's not normal. So you can't go anywhere. You here. You ain't going nowhere. So yeah. So my aunt called my mom and my folks and all that stuff. They start putting together a hospital bag, basically, because the hospital will not release me, because like the doctor said, by medical standards I am a dead person at this point. So they're putting together a bag or bags to bring to the hospital. I text my ex and let him know, hey, I'm not gonna make it home, because, well, I told him that my aunt was taking me to do a checkup or whatever, because he was at work. So I text him and I go, listen, I'm not gonna make it home because I'm stuck at the hospital at this point. And then, you know, we go through the whole concept of why and all that good stuff. Anyway, so I'm at the hospital and I'm getting ready to go get some transfusions and get checked up and get ultrasounds and all this different stuff done that I was supposed to do the last time and didn't do. So, you know, we do all of that. The transfusion, the blood bank and everything is already closed, so I stay overnight in order to be first in line to get my transfusions and stuff in the morning. So I sleep there, basically. I wake up in the morning. The first person that was there was my ex, and he goes with me up to the ward, because they hadn't put me in the ward yet. They would like running tests all night, and I slept downstairs in one of those little rooms on the bed or whatever. And so they put me on a stretcher. They refused to let me walk at any point, even though I kept telling everybody I can walk, I'm fine. Nobody was listening to me, so I was on a stretcher. So they put me on another stretcher or whatever. They wheeled me up to the ward. He stays with me until he had to go to work again, and the doctor comes in and the doctor hooks me up to all the different, you know, stuff to get my transfusions. And I get the first set of transfusions, and obviously, you know, I'm still not where I'm supposed to be, and they have to keep me and you know, watch me, monitor me, whatever you want to call it. So by the time as I got back out of, I'm a O, by the way, so you know, I can only take O. So that was another problem, because the blood bank was already in a shortage at that time, and I'm needing one of the, you know, one of those bloods that's kind of hard to come by, and also is really handy because it can go to anybody. So it took a while for them to actually get the blood together and everything, especially on such short notice. So by the time as I left the hospital, I was at an 8. I think they released me once I got to like an 8. Because I remember my doctor at my actual clinic telling me that she didn't like the fact that they released me at an 8, because that's still not normal and they shouldn't have done that. But they didn't have the blood to give me. You know, that was my type, that is, because I had a lot of people come in and donate for me at that time, but they didn't have a lot that was my actual type to give me. So, you know, they did the best they could, and then they gave me like some iron transfusions as well. I had a lot of different drips, so I had like iron drips, vitamin C and all that good stuff. So they gave me some iron and everything to try and help build my hemoglobin up or whatever. They sent me home with the tests and everything, but then they wanted me to come back, because this is when we discovered, because like I said, the night before they did a bunch of ultrasounds and everything, and that's when they discovered at that time that I had a bunch of fibroids. They weren't as bad as they are now, because they've actually grown quite a bit. And so they told me they wanted me to come back after I got some rest and built up my blood or whatever. So they gave me like a month or so. Well, did they give me a month? They gave me more than a month this time, I think. But anyway, it was to build the blood back up and everything, and then they wanted me to come back so I could actually have the surgery to get those fibroids and stuff removed. Now, I had the full intention of doing this. Oh, and they put me on birth control again, which was a bad idea, because the last time I was on birth control prior to this, I ended up getting like a blood clot in my legs, and my legs were killing me. But they needed to stop the blood, because even as I was getting transfusions, the blood was pouring back out. Did I mention that? No. As I was getting transfused for blood, it was coming right back out, basically. It was coming in up here and coming back out down there, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, it's like forcing the blood back out of my body. And I remember I was allowed to use my phone, so I was texting at the same time the guy that I was dating, and I was telling him, and I was like, yeah, they have a little complications here, because I was actually on my period. So, and it was running its course, but as the blood was being put into my body, it's like my period got heavier, and it was just like, and so I remember he was mad because he was like, the doctors didn't know that was gonna happen, or like they're not thinking. I don't get it. So, and I don't blame the doctors for that, because literally their job was like to try and get me back up, but whatever. So they put me on the birth control, and when I started the birth control again, I went home and I was releasing it or whatever. About 2 days into taking the birth control, my whole body started to freak out, and I felt horrible. And they told me to come back to the hospital. I wasn't bleeding though, the blood had actually stopped, but I felt horrible. So I called the doctor. They told me to come back to the hospital. At the time, again, the person that I was dating was at work, and the aunt that who had come and got me, she doesn't live on this island, so she went back home. So it was during the, like, everybody was at work, but I needed to get there, so I decided to get a taxi, and I went to the hospital. And well, I was on my way to the hospital. I got out and I started to walk. I didn't bring like a bag or anything, because I thought I was just like gonna get checked up or whatever. But just as it's like, I went to the hospital. Oh, I'm so wrong. I felt bad, but I already had an appointment scheduled. So I went to the hospital, they ran their tests and they did the checkup and everything. And then they said, okay, you're fine. Probably just a mild side effect or whatever, you can go home. So I was heading back home from the hospital, and I walked down to the hospital. It's like a 3-minute walk to downtown. So I walked from the hospital to go downtown, and I was gonna hop on a bus and go back home. Before I even got like completely downtown, I felt the blood rush down my body, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like a dam had opened, like the floodgates had been released, like that little bit of walk. I felt the downpour, like I'd never felt blood rush out of me like that before, besides maybe in the hospital. And when it happened, I remember I was downtown, I was by myself, and I stopped walking, and I like turned my body toward like the wall, because I was like in front of a building, and I was just standing there like, what do I do? Because I knew like all of my clothes were messed up. I could feel the blood like all over the back of my legs and everything. So I called my sister and I asked her where she was, and it just so happened that she was like running deliveries for her boss. She was doing some deliveries in like their work bus, and I said, I'm downtown and I need you to come and get me right now, because I just felt a bunch of blood rush out of my body. And she said, just stay where you are, I'm coming right now. And like a few minutes later, and I'm just standing there watching everybody walk past me and feeling like, and I felt when it came out as well, it's like all the energy left my body at the same time. Everything in me wanted to just lie on the floor. When she pulled up, I got in the car and she took me by my grandmother's house, and my grandmother called my mom, and I laid in the bed, and my cousin was there. My cousin got me like some pads or whatever, and I think they were like regular pads, and I had to get like 4 of those to like try and counteract what was happening. And I was just lying in the bed, and my mom and my dad came and got me, and they took me back to the hospital. And I got back in the hospital and explained to them what happened, and then I was stuck in the hospital for like another 2 or 3 days, and I got some more transfusions. Well, like I think they gave me like 2 more bags and some more iron and stuff, and I came back off the birth control because obviously that wasn't working for me. So then I was scheduled to come back and do the surgery. Basically, it was like, okay, we need to get this done. And then COVID happened, and I wasn't able to do any of that. And so now COVID is over, and how we got here is I started feeling tired again. It went back to its regular routine. I started to feel tired, and everybody was feeling tired because it was COVID. But and I have a COVID story too, but we're not talking about COVID, we're talking about this. But I started to feel tired again, and my doctor, I work at a clinic now, so one of the doctors ordered some blood work for me, and the blood work came back, and I was at a 7 at that point. And so I went, and so she put me back on some ferrous sulfate, I think is the name of the pills, but like that high dose of iron. But then I remember I was like bathing, and I looked down, and it was like a lump in my stomach. Like this side of my stomach was like protruding, like it was like lopsided, and I was like, that's not supposed to be there. And I knew I wasn't pregnant because I wasn't doing anything. So I was like, what's going on there? That's very weird. So I went to the doctor, and they were like, okay, this fibroid is growing, so we need to do another ultrasound. I did the ultrasound and everything, and this one here, which is the bigger one, was basically the size of like a 2-month, 3-month fetus. Basically, like there's a whole child, carrying on a whole child at this point. So they said we need to, and this was just the biggest one. It's when they put the ultrasound thing on me, and they started to like run it over and do like the scan of my whole stomach. They were like, the doctor who was doing it, and I'm pretty sure this wasn't his first rodeo, so he'd seen things, but his facial expression while he was scanning me was just, he wasn't saying nothing, but his face was just like, it ain't looking good. You understand? Like, he didn't have to say it. Like, his face was just like, it ain't looking good. This ain't looking good. So he prints it out. Well, he didn't print it out for me, but he sent it to the clinic. But I work at the clinic, so I went to work and I opened it. Listen, this is my fault, okay? It's my fault. I went to work and I went on the system and I pulled up my files to see what was the doctor gonna tell me. And I read it. I was about ready to go home right then and there. But I went to my appointment and I spoke with my doctor nonetheless. I opened my blood files too, and I saw that my blood files were at the 7 or whatever before we did all of this. You know, sometimes you just want to know. You just want to know, because you mentally prepare yourself before you get there. So then my doctor said, okay, we need to get you in the hospital. So she wrote me a referral to go to the hospital and for them to see me immediately, please. And went to the hospital with that referral and the ultrasounds, a copy of that referral and the ultrasounds, and I started seeing the specialist gynecologist there, and they put me on track for the surgery, and here we are now. So I think this video is going to be pretty long with that story just by itself, so I'm gonna cut this here, and that's going to be how we got to the surgery part of it. and we'll do another video with like what I had to do since then. So that's it for now. I don't want to like kill you guys with this one video, so that's it for now. And I hope you guys enjoyed my long-winded story. On the next video we'll probably talk about my visits, and I'll probably get more into detail about the symptoms, because I feel like I kind of just glazed over them in this one, just like this is what was happening and that's how we got here. But I'll really talk about my symptoms in the next video, as well as the steps into getting to the actual surgery and what I'm having done. So until next time, I hope you guys remember that you are simply perfect just the way you are, and I love you, God loves you, and there are so many other people that love you and you might not even realize it. And when all else fails, please remember to love yourself. Bye.